Good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you are in the world. Sean Hewitt here from the Trusted Business Community Association, and today is our Big Western International Growth Hub. We are joined by a number of our members and many of our guests to listen into this. But as this meeting is being recorded, you will be able to listen to the presentation that's going to be given to us by the man next to me on the screen here, Mr. Stephen Hackett from the Oceanus Group. And this will be going up on our YouTube channel. So, without further ado, we're going to hand over to our keynote speaker for this meeting, Mr. Stephen Hackett.
Okay.
Great to have you with us.
Yeah, hi there. Good to be here. Let me just share my screen because I do have notes and I do have a nice presentation. So, um, and as Sean said, I did do this last week, was last week. So anybody that saw it, here's a tip for you. Take a piece of paper and start making notes on things you remember from last time. Doesn't help you, but it keeps you awake during the conversation. Yeah, doesn't help you in any other way, but it does keep you awake. And people snoring just doesn't help presentations. But for everyone else, I'm also going to say I'm going to be honest. I've got a script for this call. Um, I'm not polished. I'm not perfect, but I am very good at turning a 10-minute conversation into a 40-minute podcast. So I have got a script, and I'll be using a script quite liberally, just to protect you from my voice for near enough an hour otherwise. So um, I also want to reassure everyone before we start two things. There'll be no slides about funnels. There's going to be no promises of any revenue growth. You're not going to increase your revenue before lunch. And I can guarantee, unless you connect with me, by the end of this talk, no one will have gained a single follower. You won't have sold anything new. And I guarantee you won't have discovered a secret LinkedIn algorithm to increase your followers and guarantee business. What you will have is something far more dangerous. You'll start questioning what you're actually building and what you're trying to achieve. Because every one of you on here, if you're in business, you are designing a business. The only question is whether you're doing it on purpose or whether it's just happening to you. You know, I spend my time buying and advising businesses. I get to see really up close which companies are investable, which ones are impossible to step into. And this talk is about the difference between the two. Okay. So the reason I care about this is because I've been on both sides of it. I've built businesses from a spare bedroom, which is above my head. Um, and like everybody, to be honest, in the beginning, I made it as I went along. I underpriced, I overpriced, I overworked, I hired the right people too late, and I hired the wrong people too early. Um, I've had to fire people. I've lain awake at nights wondering how I've broken something, and I've worked through the night fixing something I've broken. Um, but now I work with founders at every stage of the business, right up until exit, and I also buy companies and businesses myself. And as I said before, this gives me a slightly unfair vantage point because I get to see which businesses are really attractive and which are scalable. Um, and to be honest, which ones are really impossible to step into, they're just impossible to scale. And if I'm going to be honest, they're impossible to sell. Um, more, it's thought around 90% of businesses below 5 million turnover never sell. So to give you an idea, that's the scope of the people we'll talk about here. You build a business up and you can't sell it. You want to sell and you can't do. And the difference between those that do sell and those that don't sell is very rarely effort. Um, it's whether the business was designed or whether it just happened. Um, and in my opinion, that's where most business talks miss the mark completely. We've all sat through talks on funnels, ads, personal branding, mindset, the beautiful ones where we're going to 10x everything, we're going to 10x everything before breakfast, except the number of hours in the day to enable us to 10x everything. Um, and a lot of this advice in webinars and in all fairness, on meetings like this sometimes is delivered by people whose real purpose is to sell you another webinar, or course, or something to get more cash in for them, which is fair enough. That's business. Um, but that's not what this is about. Um, Everyone talks about how to grow. Almost nobody talks about what you're actually building while you're busy growing it. And all of that advice that you get from all these webinars assumes one thing, um, that you already know what you're building. Um, but most people don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to build a business. Um, we all just start one. Yeah, we wake up in the morning one day and think we're going to start a new business, or we say we're going to try and sell to a client and we get one client, then we get a second, then we get the third, the fourth, the fifth, then you're busy, then you're fixing problems at speed. And before you realize it, 5 years have passed. What started as freedom has become an obligation. What started out as an idea has become a structure, but without a plan. It's got shape. Um, and what you've actually got is something with the logo of that bill and mild anxiety. And this is everybody. It works. Your fixes you've put in place become permanent. Your workarounds become a process, and the growth just starts happening to you instead of for you. And that's what this is about. It's about setting it up so it's for you. You're building something for yourself. Um, so here's the shift. Here's the dynamic shift in. And this is a bit mindset-y, but it's not real mindset. But it's a shift into the business. A business isn't something you run. It's an asset you are constructing, and it should be treated as an asset you're constructing. Every shortcut that you do in the business teaches the business how it's going to exist. Every habit you have in the business becomes culture in the business. And when you don't write something down because it's just quicker to do it in your head, you keep that role in your head because no one else can do it properly. And the reason they can't do it properly is you haven't written the thing down. You haven't told somebody else to do it. So you're not saving time, not only saving time, what you're doing is you're training the business to rely on you. Yeah, you are building that business around you. You are the person that does everything, that solves every problem. And it's, to be honest, your own fault because that's how you've built the business, but you don't know it's your fault. Um, so I say you're already an architect, and the only question is whether you're building it deliberately now or leaving it to that chance of how it's going to come at the end. So if you already designed a business, just need a compass. And three simple questions enable you to have that compass. Why am I doing it? What am I building? And where is this meant to end? Yeah, simple three questions. They look simple. They're not philosophical. They are structural. And I guarantee every single business person on here who's got their own business or runs a business is already answering them. You're already answering these questions. The only difference is whether the answers are conscious or accidental. And I expect, no offense, a lot of people it'll be accidental. Okay. So the first question, um, why are you doing this? And it's the one most people skip. Now, there's no right or wrong answers here. It's not a test. I'm not going to be putting them on running a test at the end of this. But this is one question that people very rarely ask themselves, why are you doing it? Uh, it um, that threw me. Is it for freedom? Yeah. Are you looking to replace a job? Are you building something to sell? Are you creating a platform? Or are you looking for something that's really generational? You want something you can build to pass on to generations. Um, if you don't ask yourself this question, you don't decide what the business is for. The business will decide for you. You know, so two people could build the same company. Um, one for nice, calm, easy life, one for an exit. Uh, and during the stages of growth, they both make completely different decisions. And they both end up with very different companies, very different businesses. Um, and again, most founders, they just don't choose. They just let it go. And you find that your decisions start to conflict. So every decision you make in building your business, um, it's a fork in the road. You've got a choice. Yeah. From what you do, what you charge, who you hire, how much risk you carry. Do you build systems? How fast do you want to grow? You're already building this business. Um, you're already choosing, even if you've never consciously chosen. Yeah. You are building this business. Okay. Now, it's the invisible answer that's always shows up in all these places. But let me backtrack on one thing slightly. I often see founders who start, say, a service business because they want flexibility. Um, they grow, they get busy, they customize everything, they keep it all in their head because it's quicker. I could just do it. Don't need to train somebody. 5 years later, they're working longer hours than they ever did in a job. How many people in here can relate to that? Um, they can't take a week off. They can't raise prices. They can't hire easily. Um, they haven't failed because they've got a business of generating profits. They've succeeded. But what they've done is they've succeeded themselves into a corner that they're now going to find it very hard to get out of. Now, contrast that with someone who decided early, I'm building something that isn't just for me. I want an exit. I want to build this up, and in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, I'm going to sell the business to somebody else. Or I'm going to pass it on to somebody else in some way. What they do is they standardize. They say no more often to things they know aren't beneficial for the business. Um, they build systems. Um, they work just as hard as the first guy, the first person. Both are just as talented. Both are as busy, are just as busy. But the first person who is everything's in their head is building a dependency. They are the business. That business is unsellable. The second person has built leverage. They've used the same effort, but because they've put systems in place, they've got a completely different outcome to the first person. Yeah. Um, and then when you go on, once you know why you're doing this, then you've got that question answered. The next question is the unavoidable one. What are you trying to build? Yeah. Are you really just trying to build a job or with a logo, or do you want a machine that runs itself? Um, Most founders don't, as I said, don't consciously choose. We don't choose it when we don't understand. We just respond to what's urgent. The guy on the phone need the order sent this week. Okay, I'll get up. I'll go down to the warehouse. I'll pick it. I'll pack it. I'll send it out. Um, you become the sales team. How many people in here have got their own sales team? They solve all the problems. They quality control everything. They are the decision maker, and everything lives in their head. Um, they become the system, and they also can become the problem because that again, that business is not exitable. You're not going to sell the business. You're going to close it down. Yeah. Um, so as they become part of the system, it's why the business is surviving. Yeah, because they do everything. But here's the shift. What saves you early on becomes what traps you later. The better the business does, the more it needs you. Growth stop and there's a little a balancing act that when you get to a point that growth feels so good, you've got more orders coming in, but then it gets heavier. The weight comes on you because you've got more orders to process. You've got more customers to see. So you want to get more customers in, but that creates a bigger problem. A real business is one that survives your absence, and a business that is exitable, if that's your chosen route, is one that is doesn't need you around, not forever, and it's not magic, it's not, not overnight, but long enough that it doesn't collapse the moment you step away. So take this test on yourself, a 30-day test, and you can put 30 days, 60 day, 90 day, whatever. I spoke to a lady this morning, and we put in a 120-day test. But yeah. Um, Imagine you walked away for 30 days. No phone, no laptop, no just quickly checking something. Um, what's going to happen? What actually happens in the business? Do orders still get processed? Do customers still get looked after? Do problems get solved? Um, or does money come in? Does money still come into the bank? Or does everything quietly wait for you to to turn back up so you can turn it back on again and start getting money? Um, and it's not what people often look at this, they think it's about laziness, about coming out of the business and just going on a beach somewhere. It's not. This is about escape. It's a diagnostic. If the answer is nothing works without me, again, going back to that first question, it's not actually a failure. It's information because now you know where the real work is in the business. Um, the real work isn't arguably just getting better at everything. It's removing yourself one small piece at a time. As I said before, it's not magic. This is not an overnight task. Um, every process you need to write down, every decision you look at, can I hand that to a member of staff? Every role you define that role and see if it can be passed on to somebody else. And that is how a business becomes something you own. It becomes an income generating asset for people instead of something that owns you. So this is arguably, for some people, this is the hardest question of all I found with some people. What's your end goal? Um, because this is the question now that gives you direction. This is, in my opinion, this is one of the key things you need to know about your business. Why you're doing it, what's your end goal? Yeah. Um, where is it meant to end? Are you looking for freedom? Um, are you looking to be able to work 10 hours a week on a beach somewhere? Are you just looking for something to pay the rent? Yeah. Um, do you want scale? Do you want exit? Do you want to create that legacy? Uh, and all of these things are 100% valid. There's no wrong answers here. It's all personal. It's down to what you want. The real danger, however, is that you don't choose your end goal. That's the danger. This is why I think this is one of the most dangerous. This is the most dangerous topic to talk about in business. In your end goal, why are you trying to do this? And it's not choosing at all. If you don't choose one of them or have a decision of which way you want to go, you then can't reverse engineer how your end goal materializes. Um, and accidental businesses, which most businesses are, in all honesty, this is where they end up. They end up stuck. Um, you're busy enough to be tired. You're successful enough to be scared to change. Um, you're too big to be simple. You're not a simple business anymore. You're a bit messy, notes everywhere, things on bits of paper in notebooks. So you're too messy to sell. Um, so when you get to that end point, you think, help, I can't get out of this now. You're not a failure. You've just arrived at a destination you never chose. Um, now, the the key thing is a lot of people, when I've spoken to people about this before, um, they jump on and say, I'm only a small 1 or 2 man business. It's only me. I've only got 2 staff. I've got 3 staff. Um, or you get the argument that I've been doing this for 20 years. It's too late. No, you're not too small and you're not too late. You're never too late. Small changes. Um, and this slide is for both people. It's for people who are really far down in their business, and the people just starting. If you're early, this helps you avoid the trap being built in the first place around you. Now, if you're established though, take this as a permission slip. You haven't missed a window. Um, you haven't done it wrong forever. Design isn't something you do once. You something you repeat and you return to and you keep going until it gets to that point, that perfect scenario you want to. to have. And to give you an idea of why it's not too early, I spoke to a business owner today. The business has been going 50 years and it had not been designed for exit. And we are coming into a plan of action to actually get it ready for exit within the next 2 or 3 years. Yeah. So that's been a 50-year-old company. Um, and that just shows that every business can be redesigned, not in one big dramatic move, and it will take a couple of years for us to do this. Um, but one small decision at a time. You take one process at a time. You take a responsibility off your desk. You hand it to somebody else, um, because you're not necessarily stuck in the shape of what you've built for yourself. Um, it doesn't matter whether in year one, year 20, or year 50. You can still redesign this business. You can still rebuild it. Um, and now getting to my area of expertise, which is the exit. Now, most people think an exit is something you think about right at the end of your journey. Whether that exit is for retirement, for health purposes, or just want to go and retire in the sun. In reality, it is something you design for from the beginning. Um, and I'm going to give you an bit of honesty here for business buyers. We don't care about your effort. We don't care that you've done 120 hours a week for the last 20 years. Um, we love the idea you've done a lot of work, but it doesn't come into the equation for us. Um, we're not too fussed about your passion. Um, yeah, you love what you do. Fantastic. Good luck to you. But if you're looking to exit, looking to sell your business, a buyer, yeah, they're not going to buy it have your passion for the business. Don't not, yeah, you're doing 100 hours a week. Don't care. Sorry, don't care. What we buy is clarity. We buy structure. We buy a business that can work without its founder, because we don't want to buy a job. We want to buy a business that will grow for us. Um, and now people are going beyond this thinking, oh, I'm not going to sell. I don't want to sell. The key here is whether you sell or not, building a business as if you might sell actually gives you a better business. It gives you one that's calmer to run, easier to grow, and is valuable to someone else if you need to exit. Yeah. Because most people don't fail in business. They just wake up inside something they've never meant to build. Um, so ask yourself the three questions really early on or as soon as possible. Why am I doing this? What am I trying to build? And where is this meant to end? Please don't drift into a business. Design one that's worth owning, because once you've designed one that's worth owning and it's valuable enough to walk away from, you have got a very investable business and a business you can easily walk away from at any point you want. Yeah, there you go. The end. No sales pitch, nothing else. Yep. So, yeah,
Thank you very much, Stephen. Absolutely wonderful presentation and real great food for thought for small business owners out there on the direction and the pathways that they want to go. If you could stop sharing your screen, mate, we'll
yep.
take some questions. Okay, let me just. I'll leave you on the spotlight. We have Steve Soto, who's would like to come up and ask you a question, mate. Steve, I'm going to add you to the spotlight, mate. So you're side by side. There you go. Steve,
Awesome.
lovely to have you. Thanks ever so much
Hiya,
for asking,
Steve.
being part today. And what's your question to Stephen?
Well, this one might be a little rough, Stephen. You're talking to a bunch of people as I look around the grid here that have designed their businesses around a personal brand.
Yeah,
Indeed, sometimes their names in the business.
yeah.
What transformations, if they were so desirous to sell their business,
Hmm.
what are your initial transformations that you would suggest to steer that ship? Because you say it's not too late.
Yeah, never too late.
So,
Never too late.
okay, so where's your initial thoughts like,
Okay.
to help them change their mindset?
Okay. There's two things there, because with the personal branding, the personal area, how far down the path have they gone with the personal branding? So if they are the face of YouTube, for instance, and I've spoken to a lady 2 weeks ago who she runs an e-com business, and Most of her traffic comes from YouTube, and all her videos are her. I'm not YouTube friendly. I've got a face for radio and a voice for mime. Her technique here, she has got staff. So in her case, what I've said to her is, at the moment, it's not sellable. That's the big issue for her. So with the branding side, start bringing in people with her staff. And I asked her the pointed question: is there anybody on your team that could also do the videos? Yeah. So you're slowly moving her face away from the face of the brand, so to speak. Yeah.
Right.
And you bring other people in. So that's, if you're the real face, as in this, that's bring other people in the team who can do your job and train them up to actually start running. And with her, I said to her, you could do joint videos where it's both of you working together, and then slowly this person sort of takes over, or they bring in other people from the team, and it takes her face away. The name one is, if your name is in the company, you have got a bigger problem there. I'm going to be honest. That's it's a bit like having locations. So I live in Redditch. Redditch taxis is quite obvious what it is. It's taxis that serve Redditch. Now, if you try and put that business to serve Stratford, which is around the corner from us, that's a problem. People from Stratford aren't going to call Redditch. Why would you call Redditch? So removing your name from the company is a key part. And what you could do, and this is something has been done by a company from where I grew up, another taxi company, that they had the name of the area in their name. So all they did, they made it titles and the initials, simple as that. So if it was Stephen Hackett Enterprises, it becomes SH Enterprises. Yeah. So you're removing the name, but you're keeping the person there. Yeah. And you're preparing that for exit, because then a buyer comes along and says, well, it's Stephen Hackett Enterprises. Yee, I'm not called Stephen Hackett. But SH Enterprises doesn't matter. And this company used to be called Town Centre Taxis. And in my area, Town Centre was a big name for a certain area. They're called TC Taxis, and they're currently on the German stock market. That was what got them bought. I know the person who bought the company, and put them on the German stock market. Yeah. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. So you can change your name and still keep it personal. Yeah. And if you change it completely, you lose customers. But if you shorten it to titles, to initials, that works. Yeah. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Well, it does. I mean, as an initial approach, absolutely, that does.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, if you're looking at if you've got a consultancy type business that you want to exit eventually, again, bring other people into the team. So don't surround yourself as the only person that can do everything. If you can turn around to if you're visiting clients and you've got somebody else on the team, take them with you. And you start that little process of building that person up. So when at some point you turn around, that same client says, "Oh, I need to speak to you." Oh, I'll send John. Yeah, they've already met John. Yeah, and it's that education. It's that part education for the clients as well as you as the owner. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And but again, these aren't magic steps. They're just little baby steps. Yeah.
Very strategic, though, I would imagine. Those
Well, I'm looking forward to the next iteration of CH Card Box.
Very good, very good,
But yeah,
Steve. I like that.
things like that you can change. Company name is just a name. Yeah, and the reality is, I think most of us in business, we are so hooked on our company name, and most customers, to be honest, don't really care. It's not as important to clients as people think. From my experience, they do really, you know, and you just shorten the name.
Yeah, I worked for a venture capital firm at one point, and it was called Allen Socrates and Associates.
Okay.
But Allen was getting older, and there was strong leadership in the company. And one of the biggest changes that was hard for Allen was becoming ASA.
Yes.
And then
I know the
once
company
he
you're talking
did
about.
that,
Yeah.
He once he did that, then he didn't have to go to all the trade shows. He didn't have to take all the meetings.
No one cares. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. The clients, yes. Yeah, exactly. The clients don't care, do they? They were
yeah,
quite, yeah, okay. But if you see Alan, whatever, where is he? Where's this guy? I want to find him.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But you just take your name out of it. Take your
Brilliant.
name out of it completely. Yeah.
Absolutely
Gotcha.
brilliant
Doesn't
question
work.
there,
Thank you.
Steve. Thank you.
Yeah. Really good. Yeah.
Thank you for asking, mate.
Yeah.
That was absolutely brilliant, and
Absolutely.
nice to obviously put Stephen even more on the spotlight with answering that one. So yeah, brilliant, mate. Well done. Has anybody else got any questions at all or observations that they would like to? Please raise your hand, and I'll add you to the spotlight. No, are we all
Yeah.
good?
No, I mean, in all fairness, what I mentioned that meeting about me talking to people, they are genuine. I'm not making this up. I spoke
Mm.
to a business owner this morning. It's a generational business. There were issues in the company, but it's a 50-year-old company. Beautiful business. It just needs changes. So if a 50-year-old company can do it, no offense, if you're 1 or 2 years old, there's no excuse. Yeah. And it is down to what you want, but it is down to the person's, and I really mean there's no right answer into what you want. If you want to, I know people on this call have run businesses who they're quite happy to pay as their rent. It's not for me or anybody else to say that's wrong. Yeah. Um, there were people on this call I know who want to build a business, who want to exit at some point. Yeah, that's again, it's an equally valid answer as the person who just wants to pay the rent. No question, no difference.
Can
Yeah,
can can I ask a question, Stephen, if you
Yeah,
don't
can I?
mind?
I'll
yeah.
just put you on if I may, please. I'll just put you on spotlight so that everyone can see who's asking that question. Hang on a moment. I'll add you to spotlight. There you go, Laura.
Oh,
Over to
Thank
you,
there you
you.
go.
darling.
Couldn't hear that well, was then. Sorry.
Okay.
No, recognize the
Yeah.
voice.
No, it's fine. I just, like I said, excuses. I'm not feeling my best at the moment. But um, in terms of when you mentioned the name of the business, it's probably not relevant
Hmm.
to my position at the moment. But I was always kind of told, and a lot of us are, people buy from people.
Oh yeah.
So I basically, when I rebranded and rejigged myself earlier this year, um, the name of my business is my name
Yes. Yeah.
because people will then, I've got a fairly unusual surname. So if you
Yeah.
type
The the
in,
the, the surname PR is a very unusual surname. I
no,
agree
no,
with
Beryl, as in my surname.
that.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. So if you type in Laura Beryl,
Yeah.
you will find me,
Hmm.
and you will find what I've done over the years,
Yeah.
everything I've done,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Is that, do you think, still a good road to go down? Because I don't really want to start messing
Depends
about with the
depends what your
website
exit
thing.
is. Depends what your exit strategy is. So, and this is where it gets very personal. If you turn around and said, um, I want to sell my business,
Right, yes, I got that.
then
Yeah.
um, no offense, I wouldn't buy the business. I'm not Laura
Mm.
Beryl. Yeah,
No,
I'm
exactly. No,
exactly.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're then selling your business, you want to sell your customer base, that's different because you would go to another PR company and say, I'm exiting, I'm retiring, I'm leaving. I've got this customer base. I'm looking at selling it. Yeah.
Right.
So that's the another option. And the other option and the other thought to think is when do you want to exit? If you're going to plan it, when do you want to exit? So you get a lot of people in your situation who will start a business from the home. I'm assuming you work from home.
Yes,
Yeah, so from the
mostly.
home,
Yeah.
they are the only person. You are the face of your business, which is brilliant. Yeah. And you get customers in because they know you, they trust you, they work for you.
They can find me. Yeah.
Yeah, they because so but there comes a point at which and it's when you start have to hire people that
Mm,
that's when you start to think, like Steve said earlier, the VC company in America, they had to change the name because
yeah.
the guy was getting old. Yeah, he wanted to leave, so they changed the name. You don't have to change the name immediately. You can do it at any point. This is what I'm saying.
Mm.
It's not a magic click of the fingers. You know,
Okay.
you're gonna have your personality there to build up your business
Yeah.
in your situation.
Yeah.
Then you get to that point of saying, okay, if I want to exit, when I want to exit, how do I want to exit? And you make that conscious decision or thought process. So if you want to exit, just sell my database. You won't get as much for it, but it's a conscious decision. And you go
Yeah.
to another PR agency, look, I'm retiring. This is my database. This is what's generated. Do you want it? If you want to go down the route of selling it as a business, then then a few years beforehand, you start transitioning the name to something else. You know, top of my head, and LB public relations. I don't know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not the
No, I
best at
understand.
sort of thinking of company names.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's fine.
hence why Oceanus is a Greek titan. So I just
Yeah.
go to the Greeks and the Romans to get company names. Um, but if you want to, you go down and then you transition at that point. You know, as I said in the conversation, it's not about what you do now is correct. It's about having that plan, and then you can put it in your head and strategize that, okay, I want to retire at this age. I'm this age
Just
now.
before I drop dead, probably.
But I want to look at exit at this age. And I've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 40 years, doesn't matter. And then
Mm,
you can sort of gauge it. You can set things up in motion now because you're planning
okay.
that exit. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you don't
Makes sense.
think about your own exit, you sort of put yourself into that corner that you can't exit. You have one. If you don't think about it now, in your position as definitely, you've
Yeah.
got one exit, and that's selling your contact list.
Yes.
Yeah.
Makes
But
sense. Thank
if you
you.
plan it, you can give yourself at least 3 options.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
at least three
Thanks
options.
for that, Laura.
Yeah.
Brilliant
Thank you very
question.
much.
Brilliant
Thank
question.
you.
And it's actually posed a
Mm,
question from me now. So I'm going to put myself on the spotlight because that was really thought provoking and it started getting me thinking then, Laura. Not so much for myself, but just for some of the people on the group and in the meeting and maybe who are listening in on YouTube later on once this goes live. You mentioned obviously there's a lot of small businesses over in there, and Laura Beryl PR is a brilliant way to obviously look at
mm,
what we were just talking about. And like you said, you could shorten it like the VC company did, but that Steve was talking about. You could shorten it down to just the initials, and it
yeah.
would still do very well.
Yeah.
What Laura picked up on was people buy from people,
Yeah.
yeah, which is a very strong
Mm,
vision and understanding of what business transacts with because
yeah.
people do naturally buy from people, and I know that um, when you've got a bigger team or you start developing a team around you, you're right, you can start to think about different names. As a small business working from home, though, would you say it's advantageous to start with Laura Beryl because Laura Beryl is very well known in the PR and
Yeah.
public relations sector, as well as obviously in obviously the things like national newspapers and everything else.
Hmm.
She's very well known and very well respected. Would you say that if you're a starting up, like you've got the lovely, you've got lovely Carolyn Hobbs here, Carolyn Hobbs, the Queen of Cards, we call her,
Hmm.
and but and of course there's Carolyn Hobbs chit chat because it's very much about her chatting to other people. But
Yeah.
would it be for a small business a good way to think? Obviously, if you're starting out, for instance, and you know that you're thinking, I'm going to be working now on my business, not necessarily in my business. I'm going to be working on it, developing it, and I'm going to. Is it maybe a good thing to start with that recognised name because of the
Mm,
background of that individual, and then have a plan and a structure to then change it later?
yeah.
What would you say to that? Or would you just say just
It
name
depends.
it
I would say it
LBPR
depends.
from the
I
get
would
go?
s- I would say it depends.
Yeah.
So it depends on your industry.
Mhm.
So PR industry and Laura, if I remember right, Laura, you do your um reporter used to be a reporter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you've got that. I'm not going to say following because it's a bit lame, but you've got those people that know you
Yeah.
and you can pull people in. So using her name is important. Um, I'm going to flip the question though. What was Stephen Bartlett's first company called?
Potatoes.
So social chain. Yeah. So he's built a very big business out of not using his own name at all, but he was still the face of the company.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
So there isn't, this is where it gets very interesting in business. There isn't a perfect answer.
Right.
Yeah.
So
The
you could
perfect
build a
answer.
brand just as big as building the face of the business, because the
Yeah. Yeah.
brand becomes the face. From that, people know who's running it, and that naturally sort of catches up
Because
with,
that, yeah. Yeah. And
yeah,
you,
of this.
I mean, he's a bit of an unfair question because he started out from school. So
Mhm.
he didn't have a public face, Laura has a public face,
Mm.
whether she likes it or not, and it also depends on your name. So you
Mm.
search Steve Hackett, you will get the ex-Genesis lead guitarist.
Right.
For
Yeah.
me to come on the first page of Google,
Yeah.
yeah, forget
You get the
it.
poet. You get
I'm
the
just,
poet with me.
yeah, exactly. I've just given up trying. So
Yeah.
it does depend on, it goes back to that question, what do you want in the end? You
Yeah.
know, but then you've also got to pull in your current situation. So if I went into any industry I go into, my name doesn't really matter because I'm never going to compare on number one on Google. You
Mm.
know, Steve Hackett, guitarist,
Mm.
is the one that will.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. No,
Um,
good. That does
but
answer
in
the
Laura's
question.
case,
Yeah. Because of her
arguably,
history and
because of her
because of
history,
her
yeah. So
following.
if
Yeah.
let me pick somebody who does want to be picked, Ian Reid, if he wanted to open up a marketing business, I know he's in NG. He's got no following market at all. His name doesn't matter. No
Yeah.
offense, Ian. It doesn't matter. You know,
Ian, it matters to me, mate. It matters to me. All right.
Can I just say, I'm so
yeah.
glad my initials are IR and my name's not something like, Victor Davidson, because it'd be called VD Services. That would just be wrong, wouldn't it?
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it does. It's very dependable on the person, the type of business, their history. Yeah, so it's not as simple as saying yes or no, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, what I can give a straightforward yes or no answer is if a company has a person's name in it when they're trying to exit, that's a problem.
Right.
Yeah,
Good shout. Yeah, good
yeah,
advice.
Yeah,
Good
that's a problem.
shout. We
Yeah,
get. I think
great point of
I
that.
hope that everyone on the call understands that. I'm sure that everyone does. We're all very astute
yeah.
in our own business ventures,
Mm.
and I understand from your explanation, Stephen, that that is a harder thing to exit and sell successfully because no, Sean Hewitt leaves. I mean, we're the Trusted Business Community Association. It used to be back when I first started this up. If we were doing networking meetings, we go,
Mm.
Sean's going to be doing it's one of Sean Hewitt's gatherings. Let's all go to Sean Hewitt's gathering,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
it didn't have a brand,
yeah,
which is why 13 years ago we branded it and
yeah,
created the Trusted Business Community
yeah.
Association
But
because it
you use your name to
to
get that
start with
to
to
get that
start with I started the
pump. Yeah,
momentum because I was
exactly. You
known
get the momentum,
by
you
the
get the
local
customers.
communities. Yeah.
Yeah, and the same thing with people like Laura. You use your name, you use your greatest asset um, to bring people in,
Mm.
and then but you again, it goes back to those three questions, and I would say to Laura, and I'm happy to have a chat with Laura, at some point,
Yeah.
think about how you want to exit, you
Yeah.
know, um, and not everyone's exit is the same.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
bespoke, isn't it? Let's be
it's
honest.
it's very bespoke.
It's
Yeah,
individual. It's very
yeah, it
individual to
is.
their needs,
Yeah,
requirements,
yeah.
and what their visions are.
Yeah, and I've said this before in meetings like this that nobody should turn around. Nobody's got the right to turn around and say to somebody that your aspirations for your business are wrong.
Mm.
You can turn around and say, "Well, I would do it this way," or "This is what I'm looking at." But
Mm.
likewise, no one can turn around to me and say what I'm doing is wrong, and I
Yeah.
can't say to you what you're doing is wrong.
No.
Because it's very personal to us.
Yeah. Very
If
much
you
so.
want to stay as a one-person business, good luck to you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I honestly mean that from my heart. Good luck to everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to go to the 20, 30, 40, 50 people,
Hmm.
that's a different strategy.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
much so. Yeah, brilliant, mate. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to remove myself
Yeah.
from the spotlight
Okay.
for sure.
Thank you.
As I do, can I just ask if there's anybody else who would like to ask a question of Stephen? Whilst we've got him here, please put your virtual hand up so you move across my screen. Otherwise, I have to go and find you. So if you put your virtual hand up, if you'd like to ask a question, you've got the next 10 seconds to do so. And then and if not, we'll wrap up the recording side of this and thank Stephen for his wonderful presentation and a greater understanding of exiting the business and or how to develop a business that is worthy of selling. And like he says, no exit is wrong. It's all down to the personal level and choices that you want to make
Yeah.
to walk away from the business or move it on
I mean,
to somebody else.
there is one figure I'd like to scare. I want to scare people with.
Go on then,
Um,
scare us.
it's if you go online, you'll find information that 80% of small businesses, and in small businesses we're talking 5 million and lower turnover,
Mhm.
do not sell.
Mm.
80%. If you go and talk to brokers off the record, a lot of brokers put that figure closer to 92%.
Right.
Don't sell.
Mm.
And yeah, it's simple. And when you look at the ones that don't sell, there's a whole host of reasons. People think their business is worth more than it is. But quite often, the biggest reason is it's too dependent on the director, on the owner.
Mm. Yeah.
And a buyer comes in, and we're not after jobs. Got enough
Mm.
jobs to do as it is. Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So,
Stephen, for that final words of wisdom there as well. As always, a pleasure to have you with us. Big round of applause for Mr. Hackett, Stephen Hackett from the Oceanus Group. Twice this month he's done a presentation for us. This one's been recorded and will be going up on our YouTube channel very soon after this meeting. Remember, if you are visiting, for those who are looking into our YouTube channel, don't forget to like and subscribe because there's always some good content on there from some brilliant businesses and business leaders giving us some tips and tricks of how to obviously develop and strategize along with in Stephen's case, the perfect exit plan. Thanks ever so much, Stephen. And
sorry. Pleasure.
we will resume with the breakout rooms from now on in. Till next time, for those listening into YouTube, don't forget it is the coming together that sets us all apart. So keep coming back to YouTube for more information from great teams, and great leaders like Stephen and others that are already recorded on our channel.